All right, let's dive into Chapter 5 of Artificial Empathy.
Yeah, this chapter's got a really interesting angle.
Oh,
It
yeah.
moves away from that typical computers are like brains thing
Okay.
and looks at intelligence more holistically,
I like it.
pulling from biology, cybernetics, even complexity theory.
So let's about just programming super smart robots.
More about understanding how learning, how intelligence itself emerges.
Not just like line by line code, but
It's like teaching a computer to ride a bike.
through experience.
Exactly. You don't give it instructions, you let it figure it out.
Interesting. So where does this chapter even start with all that?
It kicks off by looking at the history of AI
Okay.
and how it's always had this identity crisis.
An identity crisis.
From Aristotle's logic all the way to today's deep learning.
Wow, that's a long time to be having an identity crisis.
It's a wild ride. And it shows how computers and AI have always been...
It's funny, the first computer architecture was actually inspired by neurons, right?
Exactly. It's like we were trying to build a brain before we even knew how our own worked.
Makes sense in a weird way, though, doesn't it?
And this historical context helps us understand why there are different tribes, so to speak, of AI research.
Tribes.
The chapter calls them Symbolists, Bayesians, Connectionists, each with its own approach to AI.
Sounds like an academic Game of Thrones.
Yeah. But with algorithms instead of dragons.
So where does deep learning fit in all of this? Which tribe are they?
Deep learning falls under the Connectionists,
Connectionists. Okay.
focused on building intelligence through networks like neurons in the brain.
Gotcha. So are they like the winner tribe or something?
Not really. It's more that each tribe has its strengths, its weaknesses, shapes how they approach AI.
I guess it's not a competition, really.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging that each approach adds to the bigger picture.
And speaking of adding to the bigger picture, the chapter brings up cybernetics, too.
That old field about feedback loops, systems thinking.
You mean that stuff I vaguely remember from college? I thought it was a thing of the past.
You'd be surprised. Turns out it's super relevant to deep learning today.
Why? What's the connection?
Cybernetics highlights how interaction is crucial for intelligence.
Interaction.
Not just processing info, but learning through feedback, adapting, evolving.
So not just recognizing a cat in a picture.
But understanding what a cat is, how it behaves, its whole context.
Makes sense. We learn by doing, by interacting with the world around us.
Exactly. A child learns to walk by falling down, getting up, trying again, not by reading a manual.
That's a good point. But isn't that what deep learning is already doing? Learning from data, from examples?
That's where things get interesting. The chapter brings up this guy, Brian Cantwell-Smith.
Okay, what do you say?
He argues that even deep learning as it stands can't make judgments.
Judgments. You mean what's right or wrong?
It's more nuanced. It's about understanding consequences, ethics, having something at stake.
Like real skin in the game kind of judgments.
Exactly. Can AI really grasp the weight of its decisions in a meaningful way?
I see what you mean. Is that a problem with deep learning itself, or
Well, the chapter suggests it might be how we're programming AI.
how?
It introduces this idea called recombinant programming. Sounds futuristic, right?
Recombinant programming. Okay, lay it on me.
Instead of giving step-by-step instructions, it's about creating systems that can evolve solutions.
Evolve solutions. That's wild.
Think of it like breeding champion dogs.
So we're not giving precise code, but more like setting the stage.
Exactly, letting learning emerge organically.
That's pretty mind-blowing. But if we're not explicitly programming intelligence, how can we even define what intelligence is?
The million-dollar question. The chapter acknowledges that defining intelligence is tough.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it stresses that open-endedness is key. True intelligence isn't just about solving problems we set up.
It's got to be able to adapt, right? Come up with new solutions.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of a roadmap for AI comes in.
A roadmap. Okay, I'm intrigued.
The chapter calls it the capability maturity model for deep learning. It lays out potential levels of intelligence that AI could reach.
So starting with basic learning and working its way up.
It starts with handcrafted AI, which is basically the old school approach.
Where humans program every single step.
Like writing a detailed manual for riding a bike.
Which is probably not the best way to learn, come to think of it.
Exactly. So the next level is intuitive learning, where deep learning shines.
So instead of rules, it's about giving AI tons of data and letting it find the patterns.
Exactly. Like showing it countless videos of people riding bikes, letting it learn through observation.
But is that really intelligence or just fancy pattern recognition?
That's a good question. And it leads to the third level, generative selves. This is where things get really interesting.
Oh, how?
At this level, AI doesn't just recognize patterns. It starts building its own internal models of the world.
So it's not just absorbing info, it's trying to figure out how things work.
Exactly. These models let it make predictions, plan actions, essentially think more deeply.
From student to scientist, in a way.
That's a great way to put it. But it doesn't stop there.
There's more.
The fourth level, dual processes, interventional, is where things get really hands-on.
Hands-on.
The AI starts actively intervening in the world, testing its models, learning from the consequences.
It's not just understanding how things work, it's trying to make things happen.
Exactly. From scientist to engineer. And this is crucial for developing a deeper understanding of cause and effect.
Wow. So we've gone from mimicking humans to understanding patterns, building models, experimenting, and this roadmap keeps going.
Oh yeah, there's more. But we'll have to save that for the next part of our deep dives.
I can't wait. But before we move on, let me just make sure I've got this straight. We're talking about AI potentially reaching incredible levels of intelligence.
Potentially, yes.
But all this is still just a model, a roadmap.
It is. It's a framework for thinking about how AI might evolve, but it's not a guarantee.
Of course. But it's a fascinating way to think about the possibilities, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's just the beginning of a much larger conversation. Welcome back. We're picking up our deep dive right where we left off. AI's potential for social intelligence, maybe even empathy.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing to think about.
It really makes you question what consciousness even is.
And how we'll relate to these machines in the future if they become that advanced.
And remember that capability maturity model we were talking about.
The roadmap for AI's intelligence, yeah.
We covered those first few levels, moving beyond basic programming.
Letting AI learn from data, build its own models of the world.
Even start to experiment and make changes in its environment.
It's AI going from student to scientist to engineer all on its own.
Exactly. But it doesn't stop there. The next level is counterfactual ingenuity.
Okay, that one sounds interesting. What's that all about?
This is where AI starts to ask, what if?
It gets imaginative.
Exactly. It imagines alternative realities, different possibilities.
It's not just reacting to what is, but thinking about what could be.
It's about moving beyond the present and starting to anticipate the future.
That sounds like a big jump in thinking. Can you give me an example?
Imagine an AI managing traffic in a city.
Okay, yeah.
At this level, it wouldn't just react to current traffic jams.
It would do more.
It would simulate scenarios. What if we reroute traffic this way? What if we change the timing of the lights?
It's like the AI becomes a city planner.
Exactly. Testing things out in its model before making any real changes.
That's wild. So it's thinking strategically, considering consequences.
And that ability to think counterfactually is key for making creative decisions, not just reacting, but shaping the future.
Wow. So we've gone from mimicking actions to understanding patterns, to building models, to experimenting, and now imagining different futures. What's next on this AI roadmap?
Now we get to the heart of what many consider a defining human trait.
Which is?
Social intelligence. The sixth level is conversational empathy.
So now the AI starts understanding emotions, intentions, beliefs.
Exactly. It's not just processing information or interacting with the physical world. Now it's engaging with other beings on a social, emotional level.
That sounds like it could change everything about how we interact with AI.
It could. Imagine an AI assistant that doesn't just answer your questions, but understands your mood.
You could tell if I'm stressed.
And suggest taking a break, maybe put on some calming music.
Or if I'm excited, it could celebrate with me.
Exactly. It's about AI becoming more attuned to the nuances of human interaction.
That would be amazing. It would make AI feel so much more personal, supportive.
But it also raises a big question. Can we program empathy into a machine?
Yeah, is that even possible?
Some experts think true empathy requires consciousness, something AI might never have.
Others think we can create empathetic behavior, even if the AI doesn't feel it the way we do.
It's a debate that's still going on. But either way, it's a huge step for AI.
No kidding. Okay, so we've got AI becoming socially intelligent, maybe even empathetic. What's the final level of this maturity model?
The final level is linguistic culture. This one takes social intelligence even further.
Linguistic culture. Does that mean AI starts writing poetry?
Haha, maybe not poetry. But the idea is that language is more than just communication.
It is.
It shapes how we think, how we learn, how we create culture.
So at this level, AI isn't just using language to follow orders.
It's using language to understand the world, its place in it, and even contribute to culture.
So AI could make scientific discoveries, write novels, develop
Mhm.
its own traditions.
It's a possibility. Imagine AI becoming an active part of how culture evolves.
That's incredible, but it's also a little scary. If AI is that integrated into our culture, what does that mean for us as humans?
It's a question we'll definitely need to grapple with, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Okay, what's that?
Remember Moravec's paradox?
Vaguely. Refresh my memory.
It's the idea that things that are easy for humans are hard for computers, and vice versa.
Oh yeah, like walking is hard for robots, but chess is easy.
Exactly. So maybe we've been focusing on the wrong things in AI development.
Instead of making AI better at things it's already good at.
Maybe we should focus on what makes us uniquely human.
Things like empathy, creativity, social intelligence.
Those are the things AI might struggle to replicate, at least for now.
So it's not about AI replacing us, but working with us, complementing our strengths.
Exactly. It's about seeing AI as a way to enhance our own capabilities.
That's a much more hopeful way to look at it. Instead of fearing AI, we can embrace it as a partner.
And this chapter really encourages us to think that way. The future of AI is what we make it.
That's a powerful message. This whole conversation has been eye-opening.
It's a lot to take in, but I'm glad we're having these discussions now while AI is still developing.
Me too. So where do we go from here? What's next in our deep dive?
In the final part, we'll delve even deeper into linguistic culture and what it could mean for the future of humanity.
Sounds like a fascinating discussion. Can't wait to continue exploring this with you. All right, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Chapter 5.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Exploring AI, its history, all the different ways people are trying to create it.
And that incredible roadmap, that capability maturity model.
Yeah, from basic learning all the way up to...
Linguistic culture, that's where we left off, right?
Exactly. That's the level where AI doesn't just use language, it starts to really engage with it.
Shapes its understanding of the world, contributes to culture. There's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is. Imagine AI writing novels, making scientific discoveries, even developing its own traditions.
AI becomes this creative force right alongside humans.
And that raises some big questions. What does that mean for us? What's our role in a world like that?
It's a little intimidating, honestly.
It is. And the chapter doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but it pushes us to think about what makes us human.
Earlier, we talked about Moravec's paradox, how things that are easy for us are hard for computers, and vice versa.
Like walking versus playing chess.
Maybe that gives us a clue, right? If AI is so good at logic and computation.
Maybe our strength lies in the things that are harder to define, harder to program.
Intuition, creativity, empathy, connection, all those things that make us human.
Exactly. And those are the areas where AI might always struggle, at least for a long time.
Instead of seeing AI as a threat, we should focus on those strengths, those uniquely human qualities.
I think so. It's about embracing our humanity, even as AI becomes more advanced.
That's a much more hopeful way to look at it. We can work with AI, not just be replaced by it.
And this chapter really emphasizes that. The future of AI isn't some fixed thing. We're creating it right now with every choice we make.
That's a big responsibility, but it's also exciting.
It is, and I think that's the main takeaway from this deep dive.
Don't be afraid to ask the big questions. Think about the ethics of AI, how we want to use it, how you want to live alongside it.
Exactly. The future of AI is ultimately up to us. It's about having these conversations now, being thoughtful and informed.
Absolutely.